Hi, today I'm going to talk about how stock market has evolved in the last 25 years, and for this I've been collecting lots and lots of data from the Wealth Creators Survey conducted by Motilal Oswal. I happened to listen to some of the interviews of Ramdeo Agarwal, the CEO of Motilal. They were extremely interesting insights in terms of how this market has evolved in the last 25 years. There have been hundreds and hundreds of successful stories in terms of companies that have really made big. A lot of individuals, billionaires from very ordinary citizens, very successful stories. But at the same time, we have lots and lots of failure stories. Whenever we discuss success stories, they need to be discussed in the context of failure stories also. But I'm going to talk only about the success stories, and I will give you a glimpse of some companies which have not been able to make the mark and some of the companies which have fallen by the wayside. And it's going to be a little long, and I request you to watch this because I'm going to share lots and lots of mind-boggling figures with you. And each of those figures have been duly corroborated by the wealth survey results done by Motilal Oswal, Ramdeo Agarwal. We will be talking a lot about that. Now, one thing extremely important in 25 years is that there have been so many busts and booms. But when you look at a time frame of 25 years from a long-term perspective, the perceived volatility that we might have witnessed on a monthly or a daily basis, or the major booms and busts. Some examples are 2007, 2003 bust, 2020 corona. When you consider a much larger time frame, these clutters will be eliminated and they will be completely smoothened. In statistics, we call it as exponential smoothening. Okay, so if you look at the pre-COVID era, we were sitting at somewhere around 44,000 Sensex. Our Nifty was close to 14,000 approximately, and we have gone through a bust. Okay, we fell down to 9,000, and the Sensex fell down to somewhere around 30,000 or something like that. But in just a period of 7 months, we have been able to ride the wave, and we have crossed the pre-COVID figures, and that's the strength of the Indian market. And people who rode the wave, they were extremely successful. And there are a number of people who have not been able to ride the wave. Because if you had invested X amount of money in the month of May, in 7 or 8 months, you could have tripled that money. Reliance was 900 rupees, if you remember. And today it's more than 2,300. Now it's come down to 100, 200, but that's fine. There are hundreds of such success stories and stories of so many people who have missed the bus. I know people who have lost huge amounts of money in HDFC. I know a guy who purchased it for 1,800 rupees. It fell down to 1,700, went down to 650 rupees, 1,650. That guy had a notional loss of 1.5 lakhs. He waited and waited, but when HDFC touched 1,800 and when it became 1,820, he quickly made some profits. Some 10,000-12,000 rupees profit. He thought he will make that profit and then rebuy those shares after it comes down to 1,800 or 1,700. The lesson is clear. The guy was sitting with this loss for 3 months and 4 months, lakhs, but there was a little profit of 10,000, 15,000 rupees. He quickly encashed. But you know what happened to that? It went up to 1,875. It went up to 1,900. I advised my friend to buy those shares back again. But he was saying, no, I sold it for 1,820, so I can't buy it at 19. Psychology, it's a psychological barrier. But when it touched 1950, this guy decided to buy it for 1900, but it didn't come down to 1900. Today it's selling at 24, it has crossed 2500 today. It's not years, we're talking about a month, 2 months back. So that's the issue, because that's the nature of the share market. So we have to sail with that, okay? Trend is our friend. So the only lesson that we need to have a long-term view. Anybody who wants to make money out of small fluctuations, it's difficult to make money. Intra-traders do that, intra-day traders do that because their job is 8 hours. They sit in front of the laptop, they do those calculations, they do their homework. That's their job, that's their brain. Those guys can make money. Little bit of understanding the concept, little bit of mathematic calculations, they can make money. But lots and lots of guys who work in corporates to do this. Generally people think that it's too easy. I'm yet to see a person working in corporate who has actually made money in intraday trading. I did some analysis and I just thought I will share it with our friends groups. I will be posting up in the social media also. In the last 25 years, have thrown lots and lots of surprises. All of us are aware of that. People curse the time, but let me tell you, the time is good for successful companies and time is bad for bad companies. Successful companies have grown to unimaginable heights in the last 25 years. Simple example, Infosys. In 1995, if somebody had asked a stock market expert in terms of where he sees Infosys in the next 25 years, nobody would have ever thought of it. Ramdeo Agarwal mentioned it in one of his interviews. Mind-boggling data I'm going to share with you. In the year 1995, we had a list of some 500 companies which were sizable. Of course, there were thousands of companies, but out of which there were 500 top-class companies. Only 100 out of those 500 companies actually created wealth for its shareholders. Remaining 400 companies either fell by the wayside or those companies ceased to exist. Such has been the mortality of these companies. If you look at the history for the last 25 years, we're actually talking about the last 25 years from 1995 to that. Harshad Mehta's time was 1991, 1992. There have been collapses, lots and lots of people learned from those experiences. So many new regulations were put in place by SEBI and a lot of new things came, and then 1995 was the time of the internet started, and we have traveled a long way in the last 25 years. But before we harp on this subject, we need to realize that returns from the stock market are slaves of growth and profitability. That's the first edifice. That's the first lesson that we need to learn even before you embark on this study about share business. We will talk about Infosys. Infosys company is very close to my heart. You can write 1,000 case studies. Can you guess what was the profit of Infosys in 1995? Guys, it was just 13 crores. Any guesses how much is it now, 2020? 16,000 crores. This is from Motilal Oswal, Ramdeo Agarwal. It's 1,258 times, a mind-boggling number by any stretch of imagination. I came to know of these figures only when I went through that survey report, Wealth Creator Survey report. That clearly means that the CAGR of 23% year on year, if you look at 1995 profits, it's very minuscule profits of its profit in 2020. Another very interesting statistic. Out of the total market capitalization today, 50% of this capitalization, market capitalization, is contributed by companies which were listed before 1995. That obviously means that the remaining 50%, the complete market cap, was post 1995. So imagine all our brand new companies which contribute 50% market cap. Earlier, we discussed that only 100 companies created wealth and the remaining 400 companies fell by the word side. I'm using that word because it was the same word used by Motilal Oswal chairman, Ramdev Agarwal. So, any person at that time, if they had looked at high growth, low priced companies, and if you had purchased the right company at the right time, you could have made billions, millions and billions. The challenge now is, how do you find those companies? Just as out of those 500 companies, only 100 companies created wealth, isn't it? So that's a challenge. Is it possible for us to make any guesses that out of the companies that are existing today, and if somebody was to do this survey 25 years later, that is 2025, what will be the total market capitalization and what percentage of those companies will constitute companies that exist in today's date? The big companies, your Infosys, your Reliance, your HDFCs, your Bajaj. We need to learn lots and lots of lessons. There is a need for all of us. There's so much of data available, especially with this internet revolution. I don't think it's very difficult. With so much of information in the internet and the kind of cheap data plans that we have, nothing is difficult, especially in the context of doing the right analysis and selecting the right stocks. Let's walk down this memory lane for a little while and look at some of those success stories. Can you imagine which was the biggest company in the last 25 years? Which has emerged the biggest? A very easy question. I'm sure most of you would have guessed it right. It's Reliance. All of us know that. Somewhere around billion dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars of market capitalization. One of the biggest. Now, if we talk about consistency, which company has been very consistent in terms of delivering shareholder returns? Any guesses? I had some guesses, but all those guesses proved to be wrong, because when you speak with data, nothing can trump data. Okay? Otherwise, everything else is an opinion. Can you think of any consistent company? It's Kotak Mahindra as per the survey. Can you think of some companies which have created wealth consistently? Real wealth creators. So many companies, so many. But the top class ones. Berger Paints, Shree Cements, Pidilite Industries, Honeywell Automation, Motherson Sumi. These are some of the consistent wealth creators as explained in that survey. There are 4 companies which have recorded 24% compounded annual growth rate year on year. That was a journey from a mini to mega. Mini companies to mega companies is what we are talking about. 4 companies. The names are Eicher Motors, Berger Paints, Honeywell Automation, Havells India. Absolutely superb companies. 24% CAGR. A journey from mini to mega has been so great. You can write thousands of case studies. Lots and lots of small companies which have moved from mini to mid. Because people don't invest in small companies. A lot of people say, I don't invest in small companies. I invest only in big companies. Small companies doesn't mean they are bad companies. And big companies, there's no surety that you will have high returns. These are some of the misconceptions in the market. Small companies, which are very big in a short period of time. There are 16 companies listed in that survey. Unable to remember all those, but your Motherson Sumi, Amara Raja, Balkrishna, AstraZeneca, Coromandel, TTK, our company from Tamil Nadu. These companies had a remarkable journey from mini to print. They had recorded 18% CAGR, compounded annual growth rate, consistently. There are lots and lots of companies where the journey from mid to mega has been historical. These companies had clocked 21% CAGR year on year. 10 companies. Your Pidilites, your Infosys, your Shree Cement, Sun Pharma, Hero Motors, Whirlpool, Abbott, 3M, Lupin. These are some of the companies that come to my mind. Absolutely beautiful companies, but the greatest challenge is how could we have spotted these companies? Today we are discussing in the inside, but how could we have spotted these companies? So if you look at the success stories of all these companies, and if you do kind of a dipstick analysis, there are certain things which have been common across all these companies. The three pillars: your growth, your profits, your market cap. But that's academics. But there are lots of other things that these companies have done in terms of what those qualities are. Those are the least common denominators which figure across all successful companies. So, what a lot of mutual funds people do is, in fact, this was shared by Motilal Oswal. They do a kind of a beautiful analysis. They were talking about, before they select a specific stock, they ask 25 very specific questions before they decide which stock to invest their money on. They do that using 25 different frameworks which will measure each of these companies in terms of specific metrics, because that will help you to take a calculated position in terms of which stocks you can put your money on. Some of the important parameters is quality of business is extremely important. So quality of business talks about what is the industry, what is the kind of competition, how has been your past credentials, what is your revenue model, what is the future potential of that industry as a whole, and how is the best politics, the economics, sociologically, technology, how is that impacting your business, the generic things you study in your MBA level. Using a proper framework, they ask all these questions. That is extremely important. But that's not all. There's a second one. That's the quality of management. Typically, when you talk about the quality of management, certain things come to our mind. One is competence. Competence in terms of how competent the company is in terms of weathering the rough storms in the market, which are very usual. Your passion to do business, your growth mindset, these things are extremely important. And there's one more important aspect, which is integrity. How do you decide integrity? Integrity is a very abstract and intangible topic, but how do you measure integrity? Very difficult question. But integrity generally is measured in terms of how the company has behaved during turbulent times. Because when the going is good, everybody is good. A person's real character comes out in the open only during turbulent times. And the same thing holds good for corporate companies. It is generally said that the bad weather decides the best captain of the ship. In a good weather, everybody rides the ship. But it is only in those times of crisis that the company is showing its real strength. And the next important thing is growth. To what extent the company has looked at the external opportunities and leveraged those opportunities. To what extent these companies have added to the shareholders' wealth in terms of share market prices, dividend distribution, and the remaining cash, have they been able to deploy it into other spheres of business, and whether these companies have been able to make much higher returns on the redeployed amount. That's a question. A lot of companies have done that. In fact, one company that always comes to my mind is ITZ. It's a cigarette company, and it's part of the sin goods industry. They had to weather lots and lots of problems, values. It had come down to 150 rupees some months back. I think now it's crossed, I think 200 rupees or something, 200, 205. But the company has a huge potential. They were able to diversify into other areas. They knew how the market is moving and they rode the wave. In fact, you look at the international history, you have any guess a sin good company which has been continuously figuring in the global Fortune 500, the top ranked companies? Philip Morris, a cigarette manufacturer, in spite of being in the sin good industry, no company has been able to dislodge that company from its top list. Of course, ITC is diversifying into many other things, your Ashirwad, FMCG, your hotels, etc., etc. But cigarette, I think, still continues to be their main line of business. I think 75-80%. But they keep their ear to the ground where the market is moving. eChoupal, one of the greatest initiatives of ITC. So we need to consider these factors, starting from quality of business, the nature, quality of management. Third is in terms of how they look at growth. And fourth is how is the company, how well the company is able to look at opportunities outside the company. But at the same time, how well they are able to leverage their internal sources in terms of employee training, lay strong foundations as far as the internal organization is concerned. So when you look at external growth, lots and lots of companies are there. So one company that comes to my mind is Bharti Airtel. How well they've moved out of the country in terms of exploring new markets, especially when you talk about internal strength. Shree Cement is a company that comes to my mind. Even Motilal has talked about it. They have delivered excellent returns in the last 25 years. In fact, cement industry has not been doing very well. In fact, it's one of the poor industries. Infrastructure boom was there in early 2000, 2001, golden quadrilateral. Vajpayee ji had come out with all these infrastructure projects. But after that, infrastructure companies have been going for a toss. There's been literally no growth in the cement industry, but Shree Cement has been an odd man out. So irrespective of the industry you are in, irrespective of the sector you are in, if you have a good quality of business, good quality of management, the growth mindset, a passion to do your business, your integrity, then any company can be successful. The sector, of course it matters, but it's not a major factor, I would say. If you have the other pieces, of course on condition that if you have the other pieces of the puzzle properly. Now coming back to the $1 million question, in terms of how do we pick those companies, how do we select those companies, a little bit of data crunching is important, especially in this technological age with all these free gadgets, your free bandwidth. I don't think it's difficult. There are a number of sites, moneycontrol.com, your NSE data, NSE, your HDFC, ICICI Direct, Zerodha. Volumes and volumes of information available. All the data is available. But you need to have the patience to sit and analyze. Are you willing to do the hard work? Because most people don't want that. People want to sit in front of the television, listen to some expert is saying, buy the stock, put the stop loss, and they follow that blindly. I have nothing against those experts. They are highly qualified, expert people. Many of them are my own friends. But playing the stock market is not as easy as sitting and advising people buy this, sell this. You need to have a proper understanding, okay? You need to have a proper understanding. I always keep in mind the example of a chess game. In chess, there are various levels. You start as a beginner, you become an amateur, then a professional, then a master, then a grand master. 5 levels. What differentiates each of these levels? A beginner is not able to look beyond the next one step. He's unable to think beyond that. Amateur is able to say 2-3 moves. Professional 4-5 moves. A master is 7-8 moves. But a grand master He looks at 14, 15 moves, and he has an approximate idea of how the chessboard will look like in the 7th or 8th move. The coins are the same, the power of each of those coins are the same, the board is the same, everything is the same. But when the grandmaster plays, there is a 99.9% probability of him winning the game. The same thing holds good in the share market. But how do you pick? But for that, a lot of hard work is necessary. A lot of experience is necessary. Practice is necessary. Enormous practice. Stock market is not as simple as taking out your phone and go to a stock app, download a stock app, look at some graph last 1 month, 6 months, look at candles and then deciding on the stock. That's not a way to play the stock market. Had it been that easy, everybody would have made millions. But people have come to the streets, people have lost lakhs and crores, people have blown up crores of rupees. Share market is like a bomb. Somebody doesn't wield that properly, it might blow up in his face. That's the nature of this market. Let me tell you that. Share market. None of these calculations are 100%, but things are evolving. In statistics, we have something called as a probability. The probability is what works. Bayes' theorem, Pascal's wager, right? In the context of options trading, if you can say that I see a probability of Nifty going up by say 10%, and I see a probability of X percentage of Nifty going down below 13,000. If you have this probability, then you play between these two. That's option chain. You have option interest, you have implied volatility, a lot of other things. So everything is a question of analysis, your fundamental analysis, technical analysis. But it's not very easy that you sit in front of the television, watch a few things and then start. No chessboard is the same. There are 70 billion permutations and combinations in a chessboard. There are hundreds of factors, affecting the progress of the game. Same thing holds good in the stock market also. So many factors. So the way forward, how are we going to identify? Today, it's very difficult for us to figure out how many of those companies that are existing today will exist in 2045. A lot of things are being discussed. ESG is another thing people are talking about. Environment, social and governance. This is the fact for the next 2-3 years. I'm sure it will go on for the next 3-4 years before any new fad comes into the market. So if you think in terms of the way forward, we talked about some of the lowest common denominators. So if we can think about some companies like Kotak Mahindra, your ICICI, your HDFC, your Bajaj Finance, these are companies that have given extremely good returns to their shareholders at one point of time. Very diligent. They were very serious about the work they were doing. Secondly, they had to compete with the nationalized banks, the state banks of the world, the Punjab national banks of the world. They were all nationalized banks and they had to compete with them. But they put in systems in place, they improved their customer service. And what is today in front of us, data speaks very clearly. And probably that was the reason why these companies came up to this level in the last 15 years. The question is, will these companies survive the next 25 years is a question that comes to our mind. But if you look at the records, the manner in which these companies have grown in the last 10-15 years, that momentum is enough to keep these companies going for the next 4 or 5 years. There are other companies also, because the market always rewards hardworking companies. If you look at some of the key drivers, the digital technology is taking shape now. There are lots and lots of startups coming up. You have companies using artificial intelligence, your machine learning, your big data analytics. These are, I think, the things that will drive the future market. Your driverless cars, your electric cars, these are the ones that are going to drive the market in the next 10, 15 years. Let's see how things will pan out. We've talked about ESG, economic, environment, social governance. Now, a lot of people have a question. They are asking if the valuations today are huge or not. Valuations are not huge, as per many experts, including Motilal Oswal, Ram Agarwal. We've already come back to the stage pre-corona. We've just come back to that level. So I don't think there is a need for anyone to talk about a crash. Because if you look at a year-on-year basis, it's not even 10%. It's somewhere around 7 to 8%. Corona was just a blip on the radar. Don't give too much importance to it. Some news are coming, probably another variant of corona is coming, UK, etc., but they're all small factors. If you talk about evaluation of some one or two companies, the same survey has thrown up this data. If you look at Infosys, the earnings have been 33% year-on-year CAGR. But if you look at their prices, it is just 30%. So obviously, you cannot say that the valuations are high. If you do the same analysis for Pidilite, it's around 25 against 23. If you look at Eicher, it's also following the same trend. Shree Cement, I think somewhere around 19% profit after tax, and 20%, 22, 23% increase in its prices. So nobody can say that the valuations are high, at least at this point in time. So one can safely say that these trends will continue. The valuations are not very high. We're looking at $5 trillion economy in the next 4 or 5 years. When these extra 2.5 trillion, you can see the amount of wealth creation. And where will this wealth go? It has to come back to the stock market. There is no other place where this wealth can go. We have the right government in the right place. The government is announcing very forward-looking policies and budgets in the last 2-3 years. Extremely forward-looking budgets, your GST, your demonetization, etc., etc. There are various opinions, but all said and done, the country is moving forward. Foreigners are willing to invest money in our country. The interest rates are low. If you look at the FDI investment in the last 1 month, it's mind-boggling. It's touching 1 lakh crores, my dear friends. 1 lakh crores has come into India, and that is the nature of stock market, and the going is going to be very, very futuristic, very optimistic. Now it remains to be seen how many of us are going to ride this wave. So this is what is important, and we need to put our wind in the direction of the sails. We shouldn't be talking the same old story. For example, many of us say that when we joined Maruti, if we had invested this much money on this, we would have earned this, So these are some of the pitfalls. For example, even if you look at, 1 minute, wanted to share certain other important things that have happened in the last 1 year, right from the January 2022. Would like to share certain points with you. Very extremely interesting points. That's it. I think I've almost completed everything that I wanted to say, and it's a great initiative. I request all of you to watch it and then send it to people, your well-wishers, and enjoy. Let's end it with a dance, right? Enjoy life. Life is nothing to be so serious about, and we should all enjoy life.
Jerusalem, ikayalami.